As I'm out for the weekend and unable to see the theatrical releases, I really thought of revisiting a movie that all of us can contribute to. A movie that over a period of time has brought up a valid topic of film discourse every few months or so. I'm talking about the Rajkumar Hirani directed film PK starring Aamir Khan. Think of this as a retro review, something that puts into context the discussion of how a movie has aged too over a period of time. It will be a good indicator of whether you would like to see a similar discussion on other movies in the future. The only difference in this review video of the several available on the channel will be that this will be a spoiler-filled discussion. It's the only way I can do justice to the content of the film and actually get into the finer details with all of you. As the topic of PK generates extremely passionate discussions online, often leading to a lot of insults, profanity owing to the religious discussions the film has, my only request would be to allow for the discourse to be about the film and its elements and why we agree or disagree with each other. PK, directed by Rajkumar Hirani, is quite the Herculean task to pull off in commercial Hindi cinema. You've got a high concept film of an alien getting stuck on Earth and how he learns various facets of humans in a functioning society with specific focus on their faith and belief system. The characters that he comes across on this journey include a godman called Tapasvi Maharaj played by Saurabh Shukla, a bandmaster called Bhairav Singh played by Sanjay Dutt, and a journalist Janani Sani played by Anushka Sharma, among many others. How the alien people term as PK undergoes several trials and tribulations with the hope that he may get his hands on a remote that can take him back to his planet forms the basic premise of PK. I genuinely thought that my perspective would be the same about this movie even after 12 years, but it's crazy on how my thoughts of this movie has evolved from loving it to now having actually mixed feelings about it. While I still believe that its elements generate important discussions and make one genuinely introspect and look within on how fractured our thoughts in society are, I think the movie has many issues that need to be rightfully called out too. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch PK again on Netflix or not. Merit to annoyance. Every time you see PK appear on your timeline on social media, it's primarily because it is labeled as anti-Hindu propaganda. These posts are usually associated in labeling the movie under one bracket of an agenda against Hinduism. But I believe, especially after rewatching the movie, that the movie is a commentary against religious dogmatism and blind faith across all religions. I'll tell you exactly how this movie does that in another point ahead in the review. But even for an individual like me whose faith remains unaffected by a mere movie, I thought that there were certain elements in the movie where the joke extended to mere ridicule. Rajkumar Hirani has a method to portray humor in an extremely over-the-top fashion. Its commentary is through broad strokes that are effective in especially communicating to a larger audience. It's one of the main reasons why either people love his movies or despise them. However, the portrayal of Janani's family and the most infamous scene where PK confronts a man who is dressed up as Lord Shiv does border on just being offensive for the imagery it communicates. Janani's family blindly believes in Tapasvi Maharaj played by Saurabh Shukla. The problem is not the portrayal of blind faith towards a godman, because let's be honest, we know many families who dictate many of their life decisions on a holy figure, but the problem persists on the over-the-top nature with which each element of the house in which they reside is plastered with the godman's face, including the blanket used to sleep, the school bag that is worn, and even having his frame in the bathroom staring right at Janani as she has a shower. There is this brilliant evolution of Jaggu's father played by Parikshit Sani in the conclusion, but it's these broad strokes of religious fanaticism to being a voice of reason that Hirani often uses, which I believe just lack nuance, something that a tale with such intricate elements around faith deserved. The infamous scene of PK confronting the man dressed as Lord Shiv, for me personally, is offensive for how long the scene is stretched and how the filmmaker almost doubles down on the imagery of the god of destruction to be associated with weakness and being just a coward. PK is desperate for answers, having just broken down prior to this scene, lost on how he can communicate to God and be on his way back home. So when he finally sees God in the flesh, he locks him in a washroom, cornering him on why he has not replied to him or given him his remote. The purpose of the scene in my eyes is to portray on how fate and divine power still works its magic, that a chase sequence between PK and the man leads him to Tapasvi's satsang, where he finally locates his remote. But the scene keeps on doubling down on the imagery of the man dressed as Lord Shiv, hiding, representative of meek and cowardly behavior, in sharp contrast to what Lord Shiv represents: benevolent, balanced, and the destroyer of evil. We as practical folk can separate the individual from the god. We acknowledge that the scene is intended to move the story forward, but when the scene carries on for minutes and keeps on presenting this actor dressed as Lord Shiv hiding under people's seats when called out, it, even for me whose faith remains unaffected because of a movie, did develop a sense of discomfort and unease within me, and I believe the scene is rightfully called out for hurting sentiments because it carries on for too long. There is a meter in comedy where something is just jokes, and I feel like it exceeded even that limit. Concept and Rajkumar Hirani staples. The most effective element of a movie like PK is the concept and just how bloody creative it is. An alien from an unknown planet lands up on Earth, he doesn't have a way back home, and just like a sponge learns the ins and outs of humans. Each scene serves as a purpose of being a commentary of humans and their complexities, elements that we have essentially accepted as norms versus ever debating or questioning it. There are sequences that even after 12 years are absolutely hilarious. PK's frustration is at its palpable best when he tries to explain his odd observations to Janani. Humans and their use of acha in every scenario, I believe, is even better than Osho's speech about the diverse uses of the word. I could not stop laughing at the very prospect of how the alien gets the word PK, all owing to him asking the most absurd questions, wanting to file an FIR for his missing remote. What is also brilliant are the observations by Hirani in this movie is how humans judge the exterior appearances and the language in which one communicates to dictate whether they are worthy of your time and attention. PK, having spent enough time on Earth, is this pan-eating Bhojpuri-speaking eccentric fool running around from one place of worship to the other, so Janani, who is looking for an interesting news bite, simply considers him to be a mad fool versus someone who is capable of intellectual thought. It reminded me of how humans often get blinded by their preconceived notions of individuals purely based on how people dress or talk. PK telling Janani कि वो एक बार moon गया था, बिल्कुल lull place है, made me cackle. Him learning how currency works and how impactful the face of Mahatma Gandhi is, how he procures most of his clothes through dancing cars, which is just humans fornicating, how he is amused on how humans are scared and dismissive of condoms in public places, but announce to the world and celebrate that they are having sex through the celebration of weddings. How he is in the midst of a comedy of errors as he stumbles upon a Hindu girl in white mourning the death of her husband and shares his condolences to a Christian bride getting married in white too. And immediately after, 3 burqa-clad women appear in black, all denoting different events based merely on the color of their garments. Some of the comedic set pieces genuinely are brilliant, and I believe the reason for their massive impact is because Hirani is an advertising genius and is known for his repeatable hooks in movies that become consistent themes throughout the screenplay. PK can only learn about someone by touching their hands, but a man touching someone's hand is inherently creepy. So PK's intentions are to learn, but he gets beaten up by everyone because everyone assumes he's just horny. What's hilarious is that Sanjay Dutt assumes him to be a mute. Seeing his desperation to touch a woman's hand, he assumes he's just horny, so when he does spend the entire night with a prostitute, holding her hand and processing all the information, meeting Sanjay Dutt the morning after, and he speaks in Shuddh Bhojpuri, Sanjay Dutt hilariously exclaims, "Tu bolne laga?" assuming that it's the act of sex that made him talk. A scene that could have easily become crass is treated with such brilliant tact and innovation. Hirani's magical phrases are etched in movie history, whether it be Jadoo Ki Jhappi in Munna Bhai, Gandhigiri in Lage Rao Munna Bhai, or All Is Well in 3 Idiots. Here we have wrong number, and PK's realization that the problem lies in the number being communicated to God being wrong. All he needs is the right number or for reality to set in that there is no such thing. More on why that message is so effective a little later in this review. Unnecessary element and illogical fallout. There is a romantic storyline between Janani, played by Anushka Sharma, and Sarfaraz Yusuf, played by Sushant Singh Rajput. Sarfaraz is from Pakistan, and the budding romance shocks Janani's family, believing that this relationship is doomed because not only is he Muslim but he is Pakistani too. The identity of Sushant Singh Rajput being Pakistani is hit home in the most cheesy way possible in the climax. That Sarfaraz, who worked part-time with the embassy, calls every day to ask if Janani called him. This is portrayed with the Pakistani embassy just waiting for that one day to arrive where Janani will call and ask the whereabouts of Sarfaraz, as if their life's purpose was precisely this. It's very funny and on the nose as the embassy is ecstatic with joy that Jaggu has finally called. It serves the climax but made me roll my eyes. The other element that even from a commercial POV standard was extremely illogical was the reason why Sarfaraz and Janani part ways. It's because of a mere confusion of a letter being given to the wrong bride in the church. The fact that there isn't even a room of doubt in Janani to question Sarfaraz not landing up, or that the letter, that by the way does not even address it to her by naming her. The wild thought that maybe it's intended for someone else does not even arise in her subconscious is wild to me. For this relationship to not have any line of communication merely because of this confusion on who the letter was addressed to was, I believe, a facepalm generating subplot. Music and Aamir Khan. A lot of people criticize Aamir Khan and his creative pursuits other than Dangal after this movie because it seems like he has not come out of his PK mode even in a movie like Sitare Zameen Par that released last year. The wide-eyed approach seems to have trickled everywhere, but I assure you, if you were to revisit this movie, it absolutely works wonders for this film. The over-the-top expressions fit perfectly for a being getting accustomed to Earth, and the sadness that creeps in as he feels more dejected by getting no answers makes you genuinely empathize and root for him to finally get his hands on his remote. The sequence of PK found in various places of worship in the song Hey Bhagwan, sung beautifully by Sonu Nigam, even after 12 years made me emotional. Its depiction is not restricted to only Hindu places of worship but extends to all religions. A being simply desperate for clarity and just answers. He is willing to do anything at this point, culminating beautifully in dropping to his knees in an establishment where he is surrounded by murtis. He pleads to God and says, मैं कुछ गलती कर रहा हूँ क्या? बात आप तक पहुंच ही नहीं रही. गीता का श्लोक पढ़ूं, Quran की आयत की Bible का verse. He's willing to anything just to go back home. It's a scene so beautifully performed by Aamir and your heart reaches out to him. And while I was really apathetic about his growing fondness to Janani over the course of the film, even though both Aamir and Anushka are extremely cute in the song Love is a Waste of Time, I think there are elements of this movie that people over a period of time have just forgotten. What people forget. Why I believe the movie is still relevant, important, and despite its bumps along the way rightfully calls out blind faith across religions is because there are scenes that just do not get brought up anymore from this movie. When PK does not get a receipt for his prayers in a Hindu temple, he goes to offer a nariyal to church, assuming Jesus will answer his questions. When he sees wine being offered in church, he assumes that God may be bored of coconut water, so he gets 2 bottles of wine. Asking someone ki Bhagwan ka ghar kahan hai, PK gets directions to the nearest masjid and gets chased by Muslims for even daring to try and enter the premises with alcohol. When the concept of wrong number is brought up and how various practices do not make one's wishes come true, it does not only target Hinduism. It references कि कहते हैं कि गाय को चारा खिलाओ तो जॉब मिलेगी, ये wrong number है. A character says कह रहे हैं क्रिश्चियन बन जाओ वरना नर्क जाओगे, ये wrong number है. Girls in a hijab and school uniform से फतवा निकल गया है, स्कूल जाओगे तो मार देंगे, ये wrong number है. So across the board, the movie is calling out blind faith and religious extremism, praying that the audience strives towards a more scientific temperament in life. It even presents a criticism towards Muslims who hide under the garb of religion to carry out acts of terrorism, something that leads to the death of Sanjay Dutt in a railway station bomb blast, saying आज कोई अपने खुदा की रक्षा करने की कोशिश किया और हमारा दोस्त चले गया. PK urges people to ask questions, to not believe in people who give you faith by posing as individuals of divine powers beyond mortals. And this is an important side of PK that I believe is often forgotten when the movie is simply labeled as anti-Hindu. I genuinely believe that parts of the outrage against PK is warranted, for I did personally also feel uncomfortable with some of the sequences in the movie. But will I wholly consider this movie to be only anti-Hindu? I don't believe so. What this movie has propped up as a valid topic of discussion is, I think, twofold. Why is it that when a point of clarity is reached by characters in a Bollywood movie about religious dogmatism, why is it that the antagonist has to be a fraud Hindu godman? You may present a criticism of extremism across religions through your movie, but your poster child of everything bad is still someone who is Hindu. Even though there are enough examples in real life to reflect its reality, this is a trope I believe has been overused by Hindi cinema, almost to the point where it seems like it's an agenda. And second is our dissection of film for it not to be labeled as anti any religion going to progress in such a way where filmmakers have to ensure that every religion is with equitable distribution criticized so that everyone is satisfied? Can any movie on religious extremism not cause outrage? I think it's impossible. It's an important point to note with film discourse today. I thought I would unanimously love this film as I did as a 19-year-old when I first saw it, but with more observation and evolution and I guess just growing up, I personally had issues with some of the imagery and comedic sequences that bordered on just ridicule that I believe should be rightfully called out too. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you think about PK now. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handles are right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.